Okay, welcome you all for the second class of our Introduction to Buddhism course. So today is our lesson number 2, with 5 aggregates. So last week we discussed in general the life of the Buddha, his journey, spiritual journey, his career as a spiritual teacher, and also we discussed some characteristics of the teachings of the Buddha. So today for the first time, we discuss one topic, one important teaching of the Buddha, which is the 5 aggregates. So I'm going to organize lesson today. I'm going to give you a brief summary of the readings and the things that I want to emphasize. And then I'm going to review the answers that you provided, and we go through those answers and try to find whatever misunderstanding if we had any. And then I would like to, depending on the questions and comments that you have made, I realize that we need to talk a little bit about the whole idea of identity, personal identity and moral responsibility. So how we can connect the teachings of 5 aggregates to the idea of moral responsibility, and then at the end we will have open discussion based on so I hope that at the end of this lesson you will be able to achieve these 3 goals. I think we included in the lesson. We will revisit these objectives at the end of the lesson and see whether we have achieved those objectives. I saw one important questions, I think few comments by students about understanding what is aggregate. So Pali word here is khanda. You see the K-H-A-N-D-H-A, khanda is the Pali word that is translated as aggregates or sometimes heaps and groups. A Pali word khanda has a double meaning in a way actually. One is a collection, a group of many elements, which is also, that's one meaning, a group of many elements. The other meaning is that whole thing become a part of a bigger thing. So we have that double meaning in the word khanda or skandha. It could be either a large amalgamation of a number of things. It also means a part of a bigger thing. So we can have both meaning, in this context. But however, there's interesting implications in the very use of the word khanda. So we have 5 khandhas, like 5 aspects of our experience. And the very use of the word khanda, which means aggregates or heaps, also implies that this is not the ultimate division. Because if you want, we can further analyze them. So we have 5 groups, 5 aspects of our personality, but that is not a finite analysis. So if you want, you can select one aspect and analyze further, which actually have been done in other discourses of the Buddha, and even in later time in Buddhist history, in Bodhisattva philosophical treatises, particularly in Abhidhamma. You find that each aggregate has been further divided into many other small elements. So it gives you a sense that these are not ultimate divisions of us, but simply helping us to understand at least very basic 5 aspects of our experience on one hand and also of our personality. And some people have asked why it is 5. Why not 4, 3 and 5? I think the answer I can give you, I think the Buddha wanted to make it as simple as possible. And this is one simple way that he was able to categorize this experience into 5 different aspects. So clearly distinguishable but not necessarily separable, so to speak. We cannot separate those aspects completely, but we can distinguish them clearly. So, and of course there are some other instances where Buddha actually even minimizes to, I think, 3. But this is the 5 aggregates is the most commonly used explanation of our experience and personality. But there are other instances where we have 12, like in the personality or the experiences explained in 12 elements and sometimes 18 elements. So you can further divide if you want. But this is clearly 5 clearly distinguishable aspects of our personality. In order to understand this whole thing, I think it's important to have this idea that 5 aggregates in one way explains who we are made of. At the same time, it explains how we function. So each aggregates have these 2 aspects of the constituents of a person. At the same time, basic force that is functioning there. So let's say if I was able to somehow freeze you right here, without letting you think, letting you have sensation, whatever thing, if there's no way, but if I were able to seize you right here, and what is there is the 5 aggregates. But usually it doesn't stay that way at any given point of time. It also moves, functions. And how we interact with the world is also these 5 aspects. So one way is how we interact, how we experience the world, and the other way, what we produce as the result of that process of experiencing the world. So it's experience in the world. With that process of experiencing, we also create certain impressions, or create certain, we can call it personality or character. So we have that 2 aspects in this explanation. So when we go to each aspect, so that will come clear. The very explanation, teaching of 5 aggregates actually teach you how the Buddha started by questioning the very basic assumption that usually we have. Because the idea of I is quite well felt for every individual, and also well taken for granted in many ways of thinking. So many people try to, many people or many teachings or many traditions try to discuss what I'm going to do with this. So what Buddha did was that, let's see what is this. Instead of taking the I, the feeling of me or I as an assumption, as a taken for granted assumption, he started to question, what is this? Why I feel this? What really makes this happen? So it's going deeper into the questioning. And this also goes beyond the body-mind or mind-body model. In most cases, when people discuss about human personality, usually they come up with this dual model like mind-body. Let's talk about mind, let's talk about body. But when you come to 5 aggregates, it's not simply body-mind. It's a little complex than that. Mind, what you call mind, is not a single thing actually. It's not one single entity. It has a number of aspects we will learn. So it's go beyond the traditional, typical mind-body model and giving us a more deep analysis. Let's come to the real thing. 5 aggregates. I think people have some difficulty understanding certain aggregates. So in very basic point, rupa is a form. Either we can call it the physical aspect of our being or our experience of the physical forms. So it can be either constituents of ourselves, particularly our body and our sensory organs, and also mean our experience of the form, experience of, if you want, we can call it external world, but that term becomes problematic when you go into deep analysis. The second Vedana, I think Ellison asked a question about, because usually Vedana is translated as feelings in this readings too, and also many other translation we find the second aggregate is translated as feelings. But I think when I discussed with you and based on Allison's comments, I realized that the word feelings in English can have also meaning of emotion, right? I think Dan also had made that remarks. So, but actually what really meant in the category of Vedana is a very immediate response that we give to our sensory stimulus. It's not a developed form of emotion. It's a felt quality of any sensory stimulus that is in front of our sensory organs. That is a kind of immediate, initial response we had. If you heard a sound right here, maybe somebody honked along the road, so you get that to your ear, and then that experience has a quality, an affective quality. It could be an unpleasant experience, it could be a pleasant experience, or sometimes it is neutral that you don't pay much attention, like the sound of this fan. So we already have that. So I think the one way we can understand is to use the word sensations. So do you find, how do you find the difference between feelings and sensations?
You seem to be referring to sensations not simply as physical sensations, but also
Other sensory organs.
the psychological. Well, the reason why a honking horn is annoying is usually because it has an emotional import. Someone's honking at us, and you seem to be referring to that merely than simply the sensation of hearing.
I think I want to refer to the more earlier stage than that, even before we recognize that sound. So of course later also we give evaluations and we have different reactions to that sound. But even before that, we have a felt quality of our experience.
In other words, the honking horn is harsh and unpleasant.
Yes, yes. That is the quality.
Okay.
That is the aspect of what we call Vedana. It could be not, it could be to any other sensory organs. Yes?
Okay.
Yeah.
So does that mean that the raw sensation, the sound that we experience is in the realm of Vedana?
Yeah, I mean it provides basis for our perception, for our conceptualization, for our further development of follicle rating and conceptualization. But this is like a raw. Yeah, you can call it somewhat raw.
So it wouldn't be in Rupa, the raw.
Rupa is the yeah. We can call it, that is the framework in which you experience Vedana. If you take sensory.
You said sometimes sensation is translated as feelings?
Yeah, mostly it's translated as feelings, but it can create confusions in us. Yeah.
It's like, say if the horn honks and you have hatred, to me a feeling is like a little bit more than just the sensation. There's like a quality.
Yeah, that comes a little later actually. So I mean, so this aspect is quite rudimentary aspect of our personality, or the way we experience the world. So then we come to the other category, other aggregate, which is sanya. We usually translate it as perceptions. So as I told you earlier, there's two aspects. One is recognizing the act of process of recognizing the objects, and also the concepts and categories that we have produced in that process, that again in turn influence our recognizing the other objects. So do you see this circular pattern?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's very important. I mean, even the word very recognizing is recognizing. That is exactly what is happening. Recognizing. What we really mean by recognizing is that when I see this cup, so I cognize this, not simply cognize. Cognition happen very after cognition of the cup, I recognize it. Means that I use my concepts, my memories, all my previous experiences, and then I impose all those things to this cup, and I recognize. So I recognize, and that very act of recognizing also shape my own set of concepts that I already had through my previous experiences. I may reshape them, reform them. So we have this act of recognizing, at the same time creating concepts that will help you in your future recognize. So that is perception. So you see different aspects. The sensation more like affective dimension. Not really emotion, but felt, hedonic, affective dimension. Perception is more of a cognitive or conceptual dimension.
So like when this horn goes off, first the physical form, like my
That
sense
provides
organ,
you the framework.
it hits me, and then all of a sudden I have this sensation, this immediate response, and then the next one is I recognize. So it's like
Then
like
it's
I'm-
always you recognize it's a home, or it's a home of a
Yeah.
vehicle, and then
it's
that
like I'm
will
rolling
start.
from one aggregate to the next.
Yes, a process. I mean, we can come to consciousness, and
Okay.
that's connected. Yes.
Bhante, is this phenomenon the early stages of dependent origination?
These are all related. I mean, this is the explanation of same thing in a different perspective. Yeah, dependent origination more of explaining the process, very process in detailed manner, but
That includes...
yeah, the same things are found in dependent origination. It's the same explanation of the same thing, but from different perspectives.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you.
The implication here is that the various khandas
Khandas.
build on one another. Is that appropriate to assume, or is that not?
They are interconnected, definitely.
It's more like a network than a pyramid.
Yeah, I think network. Yeah, more to the network. But they are clearly distinguishable. That is why the Buddha, explained this. But if you want, you can further analyze. Then we come to the most difficult one to translate, which is the sankhara. You find many translations of this term are really difficult to grasp. But I choose here volitional formations. Again, so we have these two aspects. In one hand, you have volitional force equal chetana, the volitional force that the impulse for you to react, take actions. On the other hand, because of the reactions, many reactions that you have taken, you also have habitual patterns, tendencies that you have produced through that reactions. So you have this volitional force reacting impulse, and at the same time habitual tendencies and dispositions that we have created through that reaction of many times. See, so we have these two aspects. So all of our, you can say, all physical, verbal, and mental habits, even the way I move my hand right now, even very language. I don't speak all the words consciously or choosing to speak. It just comes in following a particular pattern. Even the way I think is a habitual pattern. At the same time, I also have volitional force to react to different situations, which is influenced by my earlier habitual patterns, and I will strengthen my old patterns if I respond in the same way, if I react in the same way. Or I also have a choice to change my reaction, change my volitional actions, and maybe weaken my unhealthy patterns or strengthen my healthy patterns too. So the volitional formations is the most biggest thing here. It's like our character. But one important thing is that it's not fixed. It's not permanent. Yeah. And then, of course, the difficult one will be again vijnana, which is the consciousness. Here I would like to. This is a topic that we need to have a longer discussion. But in this level of our class, let us understand consciousness as a basic act of knowing. So cognizing a sensory object. Could be cognizing a taste, cognizing a smell, cognizing a visual form, cognizing anything that comes to And it's a foundation that makes all experience possible.
So would
So-
all the
so-
other...
So maybe if you want to understand this as a process, so you have this consciousness, then you have physical form on the top. When these two combines, then you have sensations, and that sensation can lead you to have perception, recognition, and interpretations, and then that will lead you to have reactions, and then you produce certain tendencies in you.
Was the third one perception on the
Yeah.
previous page?
Yeah, yeah.
So they seem to be similar, perception and
Oh.
consciousness. Or what am I missing?
You can call it, they are definitely connected, but if you, can you notice the Pali word? Here sanya, S, and then nya, and then you can hear vijnana. So you can say it's the same, it has same root. Okay,
One said recognizing, one said knowing. I don't know if that's...
to sanya means it's a little complex situation. So you already, it's a truck, okay, or it's a honk of a truck, or it's a cup made of plastic. So it's already a complex component. That is sanya. But when you come to vijnana, it's simply a separation between the object and the subject. Or you carve out that object. When I open my eyes, how many things come to my eye, right? But I will somehow select. I have somehow select one visual form along many things that is coming to me. So that very act of selecting, and also establishing the difference between object and subject. A very subtle form. And perceptions are quite complex mental processes.
So, sanya is more of a basic, immediate experience than...
Sanya is more complicated and more fabricated, more conceptualized.
Okay. I
Yeah.
thought that was vijnana.
No, vijnana is very basic, very fundamental.
Okay.
It's very fundamental.
So perception can be based on our past experience, and consciousness is more in the now?
Everything happening now, but I think, let's say perception happens after cognition. In that way, okay. So I first separate, I carve out this cup from the rest of I put other things to background and carve out one object. And that's cognition, that's vijnana. And then giving more meanings, interpretations, and using all memories and concepts. Oh, this is such and so, and then that is perception. Okay, any problem with this understanding this? So now you first, so you have physical aspect, you have affective, like hedonic dimension, then you have more of a, let's say, cognitive, or conceptual dimension. You also have we call conative dimension, which is more like volitional force react. Will. That is volitional formation. So 5 different aspects of our experience and 5 different constituents of our being. That is 5 aggregates. Okay. What's really happening is that when these processes are interacting and also working quite fast, if we get that very simple example of hearing a sound, within a second, all these aggregates function at once. It is really happening in a fast manner. So when you don't really see these processes working together, and if you go back here, when you say just mind, can you find anything, any single aggregates even you can call it mind? And how many things are here? Sensation, perception, volitional formation, consciousness. So mind isn't one single thing, it's few processes working together. So when these processes working in a particular fast-paced manner, and also in a way that we don't really pay attention and see, when you don't see these things happening, or when you do not understand them, it creates a centralized reference point. you feel like there's an agency, there's an experiencer. So other than the experience happening, when you don't see how this experience is really occurring, we impose an experiencer behind that process. So what we call I, or agency. Okay, and that's what happening. But Buddha really wanted us to see this process, and also anytime when he was explaining our experience, he will go to each aggregate and he will ask the monks, do you find anything in the aggregates of rupa is permanent? Do you find anything in the sensation as permanent? Do you find anything in the perceptions as permanent, and volitional point as permanent, and even the very act of consciousness is permanent? Because consciousness needs many other conditions to arise. And then he says, if you don't find anything to be permanent there, and then to which reference, and what you refer by the word I, or what and how you can assume a permanent agency. And then other thing I want to emphasize that Buddha has used verbs rather than nouns when he wants to explain these aggregates. Of course, when we as a heuristic technique, as a way of teaching, he will categorize this in 5 aggregates, 5 heaps, but he prefer to explain these things in verbs rather than nouns. Therefore, we find for rupa, we find rupati, that which afflicts. For vedana, we have vedeti, sanya sanjanati, sankhara abhisankharoti, and vijnana vijanati. So it's a verb that actually that is closer to what's really happening rather than nouns. But of course, for the sake of understanding, for the sake of explanation, we have to use categories and nouns. But Buddha has used verbs also to explain it.
Bhante,
Yes.
this is the stuff of suffering, correct?
Yes.
So then this is all tied up, or it's together with the Four Noble Truths, correct?
Yes. Yeah. And let's say how we create suffering. Yeah. And this is like helping us to understand what is really happening here. And then product, when we do not understand this process, when we do not understand this process, what we produce is suffering. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And there are also and Buddha has also given similes for each aggregate to explain that they are not permanent. And what we normally taken as solid, as something really heavy or permanent, and Buddha is giving similes for each aggregate, which really helps us to change that whole understanding. Yes, Dan?
I'm still having trouble distinguishing physical form and feelings. I don't know if you want to spend more time on it than you have. But in the slide that you had up just prior, I think it was rupa, that which afflicts, and venana, that which feels.
Yeah.
So is rupa more on the objective side of the subject-object divide?
It has some objective aspect to it, but it basically is we call four great elements. Rupa is basically 4 great elements: solidity, liquidity, what is the other 4? The temperature, and then air. So the 4 we call 4 great elements: earth, water, fire, air.
So it would be.
But again, how we can have all these 4 great elements without an experience of them. So it has some objective aspect to it, but you cannot really make it completely objective out there. It's a very, very act of experiencing them. It becomes earth, it becomes water and fire. But for the sake of this class, we can say it gives you some kind of idea of some objective reality, but not completely separate from the experience.
I'll keep it short, but with the rupa, if it were a feeling of, had to do with earth, the quality of earth.
Yeah.
There would be the feeling would be your experience of that quality
Quality, and then having a immediate
response to
response.
that.
Yeah,
The rupa itself is almost
merging.
like an abstraction of
What's definitely what is coming to your sensory organs.
The one thing's confused me. I think I know what a simile is, but feelings. You're not talking about emotions. You're talking about.
Well, emotion comes into volitional formations, and that's
not
where
perceptions.
Perception more like concepts, more like
Okay.
recognizing, more like a cognitive aspect to it. So if you want to categorize emotions, it will be in the volitional formations that
Okay.
aggregates
Alright.
in our
So, but how would you compare the feelings that's up on that board? Feelings
okay.
with the
Again, I
bubble?
put feelings, right? So I should write it as sensations.
Oh, okay, I got it. Alright,
Sorry.
I got it now. So,
Thank you. Yeah, but focus on these similes. Like physical form is a form, like F or AM form. And that is the nature of this physical body, and also even the other.
Yes, sir. When you had the previous slide under the body, I think you said on the verb something about it afflicts.
Yeah.
And afflicts, I had to look it up. It says, to cause pain or suffering. And I would almost think it's the other four that cause my pain and suffering, or one of the four.
I
not
think
the body.
maybe here we have difficulty in translation. It's more like exacerbate. What you call? But let's say changes.
And that which can fall ill is what was meant.
Yeah, it's changes. It's excess. When you have a wound, when you getting worse, what you call exacerbate.
exacerbate.
Yes. Yeah. And physical, I like form. Imagine the form. It has that nature of decay, or maybe
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then sensations are like a bubble. I mean, none of these examples are permanent. They are really fragile things that we find in our nature that is produced through a number of conditions. So form is produced by a particular set of conditions, and they are very fragile. And that is the nature of the physical form. And the bubble is equal to sensations. And it comes and disappears, comes and disappears. And how many sensations you experience, after you came here? Like when the fan moves there, you feel comfortable, and when the fan moves the other side, you feel uncomfortable. So even in that very moment, how many sensations are there? But none is permanent, right? So bubble. And the perception is given as a mirage. It's like our imposing of categories, our concepts to capture and to recognize and conceptualize what we see. So it's giving you a sense of not real, so to speak, but it's there. Because volitional formations is similarly is planting trunk. But you plant, what you understand? Do you understand planting?
A banana tree.
Banana tree. Yeah. So I mean, we usually think that there's solid, what you call hardwood inside, but if you really open it, it's like a plantain tree. Maybe, other example would be onion. If you try to see the seed of the onion or the hardwood of the onion, what you see is simply, you don't find anything, but there's a construction of this whole trunk based on number of layers. And that is how our character, our tendencies, our disposition, everything is this collection and different layers of these habitual patterns without a particular entity inside that. Consciousness is a topic that we need to discuss in detail later, but it's like a magical trick. But it's an appearance. So let's stop there. Because I don't want you to feel
Too late.
I don't get that at all.
yeah. I think we should discuss it in a very different context in detail. But right now, it's a basic act of being conscious of. But it is produced based on number of other conditions too. Okay, so let's go to our questions. First question was that how you, I mean, I asked you to classify different things that we experience in different categories, and many of you have answered correctly, and then these are the correct answers. And if you have any problem with these answers, please raise your hand and ask the questions. You can revisit your answers, and some, I mean, many have got right, and some were confused what the concepts will fall, and some people like put memory in the consciousness. Yes.
Instead of using the word feelings, would touch be an appropriate word to use?
It
That
would be
would make a lot
appropriate
easier.
only for the tactile sensation, but how about visual?
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah, I think you are coming close. Yeah,
I'm trying to get it
Yes,
easier.
yes. Yeah. I mean, one thing, when you put something into your mouth, even looking at it, even before you recognize, before you know what it is, you already have a quality of experience right there, right inside your mouth, and that is sensation. And then once you recognize it, and you have to complete different flavor, even if it's bitter, if you think that is medicine or that is somebody given you, you still enjoy it. That is perception. And then going more towards the volitional reactions. But even before that, we have affective quality to each experience. Okay, so memory, I put here as two because usual memory is in the category of perception. But there are certain memories in us that is not really in our let's say brain, but in our muscles, like how you ride a bicycle. And even some musicians, in the way they play their musical instrument, even musicians who have brain damage, they still can play their musical instrument because there are also memories captured by our other muscles. So it could be volitional formation, like habitual patterns. So memory has two aspects. One is the cognitive aspect, that I remember you, I remember that thing, and that is more like a cognitive, that is in the perception category. But other memories that is built up into your body is falling to volitional formations category. Okay, so if you have wrong answers, please correct your answers based on this. Okay. This one, I asked you to comment on the Heraclitus sayings that no man can. What did I give you?
No man sets foot in the same river twice.
So I got very interesting comments, and I really enjoy reading them. When I search this phrase, I have seen in some places it says that no man ever be able to step in the same river because a river is not the same and man is not the same. But I contacted one of my colleagues who is actually studying Greek philosophy, and also she can read Greek. I asked her, please go back and check this phrase and give me a proper, appropriate translation with reference. So this is what I got. There are two instances where Heraclitus has said similar, this phrase, but this is how exactly it is translated. If you go to the second quote, it is not possible to step twice into the same river. It decays, again comes together and approaches and recedes. So if we based our trust on this quote, what I want to emphasize is that in this phrase, Heraclitus has explained clearly the impermanence, changing the flow nature of the river. But how about the man? When you say it is not possible to step twice into the same river, so he has accepted the change and impermanence of the stage tunnel of his experience, but somehow closed the eyes to the experiencer. So what the explanation of five aggregates does, that it also question or explain the change, flow nature or the impermanence of the experiencer himself. Then you say no man ever be able to step in the same river. Of course, rivers are changing, but is there a man in the first place to step into the river? So both are changing. So the five.
What you're also saying is that there really isn't a river. A river is sort of a conceptual category. You just have many, many waters.
Yeah. So the case is same with the person who's going to the river too. So the five aggregates does is that it explain you the impermanence of the subjective world as well as the objective world. Which is difficult to catch is the impermanence of the subjective world. People will see that flowers bloom, flowers fade away, then people will say, oh, these are changing. But without their knowing, they have somehow created a sense of permanence within the agents, within the experiencer who's doing this. And that is difficult to see. The five aggregates exactly clear in that. It's clear in here, other than the external world. The other question was actually, what gives rise to notion of permanent I? I think I got good answers for that. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we should wonder if people do not get this. I mean, if you really see the complex working of five aggregates and how they really interact each other and produce this experience to you, and we should wonder if people do not feel the sense of I. It's happening in such a manner that everybody feels like that. Everybody will justify that sense of agency, and sense of reference point.
I guess my takeaway wasn't it's wrong. I was thinking that the five aggregates led to the permanent I, but that's wrong.
We can say maybe not seeing five aggregates. Maybe yeah, that's interesting. Maybe the split functioning of the five aggregates. Like what Buddha says that when people try to justify the notion of self, like permanent self, they will either rely on one of these aggregates. Either they will rely on the memory, or they will rely on sensation. They will rely on consciousness. So these are the bases they have to rely to justify the permanent self. But Buddha is saying that those bases are not solid enough.
Do the five aggregates lead to distortion?
Not necessarily.
Delusion?
Not necessarily, because enlightened ones live with five aggregates without having notion of five.
And what exactly leads to that? What exactly leads to it?
Yeah, I think not avijja and tanha, but not being able to see these five aspects. Usually we think as a mind, or maybe soul, or whatever thing, that experience in this, that gives me thoughts. Mm-hmm. But when you really see that this is habitual patterns, my intentions comes through my habitual conditionings. And when you really, when people don't see those, actually when they don't see five aggregates, when they do not see the very functioning of the five aggregates, and then they usually end up having an idea of permanent I. So not seeing it, distortion or delusion. But no, it's not only cognitive. That's I want to emphasize. Not only cognitive. And many times, people have tried to justify, a permanent kind of self or I or whatever. So are motivated to do that. Not simply there are logical reasoning. Not simply they have enough logical reason to do that, but there's a psychological need to do that. So like we like to somehow construct or somewhat believe in such a thing. Otherwise you feel like we are. And you just made the comment, right? And when you first read those things, you feel like my sense of stability is scattering.
Bhante, it's really how, it seems to me, how the conditioned world operates. And my experience in working with persons who are in mental institutions have this down pat. Like they'll say, this isn't me, this is only skin, or this is only hair.
Interesting. Okay.
But it isn't me. And so they're labeled psychotic.
Yeah.
So it's a conundrum, so to
Yeah.
speak. This is how we live and breathe and have our being.
And then we call us healthy people, right? Yeah.
This is how we roll.
Yeah.
But it's, do you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
don't you?
Thank you for bringing that. When we talk about child development, so we think about different stages of child development and how children form an idea of self in different stages. So when this process doesn't happen, inappropriately, people may end up having psychological disorders. I think what's really happening here that first, as ordinary beings, and this is how we function, and this is how we, interact with the world. But I think this is going beyond that.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
I understand,
so- But I see your point that some people may not necessarily recognize that their hand and their body is theirs, but they are not. But they're suffering, right? Are they suffering?
yeah, there's mental breakdowns and clearly they are suffering. and
Yeah.
often-
Maybe what's really happening is that the identification of self is somewhere else.
But I don't want to get caught
Yeah,
up in
caught
here
up, yeah,
because
yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
limitation of time.
Yeah.
But it's just really
It's good that
fascinating.
actually we bring that
It's
issue. It's
fascinating.
something we all should think. It's good for me also to see what is different between the enlightened mind who is then recognizing with any of these aggregates and the people who we usually call psychologically ill.
Well, even the Buddha himself, after his enlightenment, didn't cease to have a personality made up of 5 aggregates. He just related to the 5 aggregates differently.
Different, yeah.
He awakened to their actual nature,
Nature.
and responded to them differently.
Yeah.
So the aggregates themselves are not the cause of suffering.
Suffering, definitely. But the clinging to those aggregates, and
One particular use of many of those aggregates is the
Yeah.
cause of suffering.
yeah, particularly I think the clinging. What really other one is actually clinging to these aggregates actually perpetuate the very aggregates. That is the point. The clinging to these aggregates is perpetuate. So it's a self-perpetuating process. So once you remove the clingings, it's kind of slow down the perpetuation, and then finally it's stop being perpetuated by itself. So when we have this, we not only have 5 aggregates, we have grasping to 5 aggregates, which is this craving. And that is what really makes this whole process perpetuate again and again. So we are not only 5 aggregates, we are 5 aggregates plus grasping of it, and then identification with it, and self-identified with it, and then upadana, and once you have that, you perpetuate more sensation, more perception, more positional formation in that line. So you keep perpetuating itself. So you have a constructed self. What the 5 aggregates are teaching us it doesn't say simply there's no self in in a nihilistic sense. But it says that
There's no
Our-
permanent self.
this is a constructed self. It's being constructed again and again. Every moment we reconstruct that. But we don't see it, but that's what we are doing it. But we have a constructed self, which has no permanent entity in that. That is where we still have more responsibility with ourselves and with others. It's not simply, empty or nihilist, but there's a constructed self going on, self-perpetuating, all clinging beings. Actually, the very being in Pali is sattva, which means those who have clinged to 5 aggregates. They keep perpetuating.
But wouldn't that be the essence of ignorance because we don't know any better?
Ignorance plus grasping, craving.
'Cause
So
we don't know.
like father and mother. Father and mother. Like, we need both to produce this. So ignorance plus craving.
Okay,
They are interconnected, yeah.
because we do this because we don't know any other better, we don't know any other way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go back to our lesson plan. I think we cover some part of identity and more responsibility. So one thing, when you read this 5 against, you feel like if everything is changing, if everything is in the flow, and then you have this whole problem of then are we more responsible for our actions? I think when you really understand the volitional formation, how we actually form, shape, and create these tendencies and habitual patterns in our life, and you get more responsible. Of course, there's no basic, there's no permanent thing over here, but as long as we have clinging to this whole process, we keep producing them, and other beings are doing that. So they are real in that sense, not really real, but it's a constructed beings over there, and so we have to be responsible, and we have to treat them nicely, we have to treat ourselves nicely. So what really, when it comes to identity, usually we tend to understand identity in a sense of underlying trait. Like we think, okay, I was a little child, and now I'm middle age, I'm old, and so we have a sense that there's an underlying thread that somehow connect all these ages into one thing, and so people name this thread in different ways.
A narrative. A narrative, a story.
Oh yeah, that thread. So people establish identity based on the idea of underlying thread that is not visible. But what Fagriges does is it does not destroy the identity. What it's really doing is that it explains you the identity not in terms of a thread underlying, but it's giving you more of a stream. So I would call it identity is continuity, like a stream. So different type of identity. So I can call this finger that I have right here is the finger that I had when I was 5 years old. But there's nothing here, nothing inside this finger that was when I was 5, that was there when I was 5 years old. The only way that I can connect this finger to that finger is the continuity, not the inherent entity.
So they're two different fingers. One belongs to a 5-year-old, one belongs to you now.
Yeah, but they're not completely separate from each other.
Right, but the process of this finger becoming this finger is what gives you an identity.
Yes. Yeah, that's a different way of establishing identity. So when we have this grasping and clingings, and we perpetuate this whole process, and it becomes so strong, even our physical body collapses, and this whole process is not ready to simply give it up. It can even self-perpetuate further, even beyond that. That is how Buddhism even explains rebirth and other things. Because clinging can be so strong. Because you see that it's not only physical part, there are other 4 aggregates over here. So when you have a strong clingings to this, and as long as clinging is there, this is perpetuating, and it can be so strong, then you will not simply stop it, simply because your physical body collapses. Okay, any other final thoughts? Yes?
Just so I think I got this straight in my head. I don't know if I do or not. 5 aggregates don't make up the concept of self. It's my conditioning to them that makes up my concept of self.
Yeah. You are, yeah.
Okay. Makes
Not,
sense.
not being able to see this whole, the process
And it's
clearly.
the clinging and the desire and all that other
Yeah.
stuff that really aggravates and
Aggravates,
activates.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Got it. I got it.
And sometimes, people, sometimes actually, people see that this is collapsing. Every moment this is collapsing, but we try our best to, somehow construct this. That is great, craving for that self-identity. Every moment is collapses, but we keep doing it. And that's how everybody do it. But we just have to understand this. So let's go back to our objectives. Do you think that we have?
Yeah.
Achieve these goals.
I mean, it's still sort of difficult because I don't think that,
Yeah, of course. This is again a very conceptual understanding. Remember, what you really did right here is just increase some of your perceptions. You aggregate your perception. What you really did here is that you add more concepts to your aggregates of perceptions, but they are relatively better ones. Good ones. But real change happens when you really experience this in our own. Really being mindful about your own reactions, on your own perceptions, on your own sensation. When you really become aware of these things when they're really happening at that very moment, by direct the same day, you really develop deep understanding of it. Right now, you build up another concept, but we have to go beyond that.
Bunji, in the process of meditation, one may potentially begin to see some of this.
Yeah,
In
definitely.
order to just put it down and let it go finally.
Mm.
Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, that is what we try to understand this, and at least to loosen our rigid holding. To loosen, and you will learn some freedom, some relax, and some freedom to move, some freedom to, and then So that's what we want to do. Like right now, we have very strong, rigid grasping, and the tighter the grasp, the more is the suffering. And we loosen it, yeah, less suffering. Okay. Then thank you very much. I hope to see you next week. So next week we have a more difficult lesson, which is depending origination, which will explain the same thing, but in a more processual nature. And Bhante Purna will do a presentation next week. And I thank you for your commitment to this class. And please start your readings next week and give your comments and answer the questions and come to the class. And I also want to make an announcement about the meditation retreat coming up in 2 weeks. August 14th, 15th and 16th we have a meditation retreat. We are very fortunate to have a great meditation master, Bhante Gunaratana, who's known as Bhante Ji, who actually wrote a number of books including mindfulness in plain English. So he will be here with us, and so please plan to come and attend and benefit from the teachings.
Is the class going to be integrated into the retreat?
No.
Or is this going to be not
No
held out?
classes, no
Okay.
classes on that. Yeah. This is too intellectual to be in
Yeah.
retreat.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much and wish you all a great weekend and see you
Thank
next
you.
week.